Okay, we're going to look at some tips for test taking, and we're going to start with some data response, but we can also look at some other tips while we do that. So here, first of all, we're going to try and look at this example question. So we're going to grab this. See if we can do this. Yeah. So here we've got a data response question, and it says, we'll read it together, the graph below shows the variation. So we can look at that word. Variation means the changes, or the range, you could think of it like that, in insect biomass. Remember, biomass is the biological matter. I'm going to make it a bit bigger so we can zoom in a bit. So we're going to look at this word here, biomass, and that's measured in grams per meter squared of dry weight. Remember, no water. That's so that you can make easy comparisons. It's over a year, and it's in a shrubland ecosystem, so that means it's dry. There's small trees. It's on the west coast of South America, so that might be Chile. In fact, it says here Chile. And note that the months along the horizontal axis commence in July. So this is July, and we've got August, September, October, November, December. Now it says South America, so South America, remember, is southern hemisphere. Southern hemisphere. I'm just going to say hem there. So that means that in July, this is winter. Okay? And it even tells us that. We don't even have to think about that. So we've got here July to is midwinter, and then you're starting to get the summer months if you say 6 months later. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got the summer months here. Alright. So biomass and time, and it's insect biomass. So what we can see when we look at this is there's peaks here and here, and this one is kind of in mid-October, and this one is in mid-April. Okay. Now we're going to proceed in this question. The first question, we look at the mark number, and we look at the command term, and this one's defined, so all it wants is a definition. So you give a definition of biomass. Okay, then we move on, and it wants you to explain, as another command term, why the dry weight is used, and that's to do with being able to make fair comparisons of the organisms and ecosystems. Okay, we're now going to look at the next part of the question, where we start to look at the data, and here it wants you to describe and explain the shape of the curve of the graph. Okay, so first of all, you need to go back to the graph, and you need to think about how you're going to describe this. Now, my first tip for this sort of data is use and refer to the numbers. Okay, and then make sure that you're reading the axes correctly. Okay, so in our graph here, remember we've got from July to mid-October, we've got an increase in biomass. From mid-October to January, we've got a decrease, and then it starts to increase again to mid-April, and then decreases to June. Okay, so we need to say that. So we'll talk about, we're going to mention time points. We're also going to say where it peaks. The second one's a bit higher. Okay, and I would advise you use a ruler. Refer to the numbers, and if you see any other patterns in the data, you can talk about those. In this case, we've got a peak, and it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months apart. Okay, so another advanced technique is to do some simple calculations. Do some simple calculations. Now, in order to explain this data, okay, there's an increase in biomass, decrease, increase, decrease. There's an increase as it gets warmer, then a decrease, and an increase. So what could be the explanation for that? It could be that we've got seasonal changes. So it could be if we think about our population, it could, terminology, we can talk about density dependent and density independent. Control of this data, okay? And here we're looking at 3 marks, okay? So you're probably going to be talking about, in this case, 2 marks, describe, and 1, explain, or it could be the other way around. There's probably flexibility in the mark scheme. And then the final question here is, we've got 4 marks, and it's another 2 command question, which doesn't really happen now. Exam setters try and just use 1. So here it's describe and evaluate the method for estimation of changes in plant biomass in an ecosystem. Okay, so here they'd be wanting a method, and then for the evaluation, you're going to be talking about pros, cons, and you're going to come to a conclusion. In this question, they're probably looking more at the pros, but in the cons, my mistake there. The challenges of this this method. Okay, and I think we'll stop there.